Greetings everyone, my name is Etterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Mega Maker. During the last part, I completed 2 levels that I accidentally skipped over, as well as 6 levels that were submitted to me by my viewers. So in this part, I'll continue by completing 2 levels that were submitted to me by a viewer, as well as a few other levels that I found by searching on Twitter using the Mega Maker hashtag. Now, as you may have noticed once I actually search one of them, you'll see that I already completed this stage. What ended up happening was I already recorded this part, but for some reason the video footage got corrupted due to an issue with OBS Studio. I wasn't able to recover it, so I'll have to re-record this part. So in effect, all the videos I will be covering in this part will be second impressions. But to be fair, that'll mean I'll be able to give a better perspective on the level. So first up is Flame Factory by DeltaRay, 7 plays and a score of 1. I will be covering 2 levels that were submitted to me by DeltaRay. First Flame Factory, the other one will be on the top of the volcano or whatever it's called. So let's do this. Like I said, well, I'll give my abridged disclaimer because I've repeated it so many times in the previous few parts. I'll give the full disclaimer in the description below. And also, if you want your level to be featured in a future part, please give your level ID or level name in a comment below or send it to me, direct message me on Twitter. So basically, while I go through these stages, I'm going to be rating them on a bunch of things, like checkpoint placement, proper introduction of gimmicks and enemies, enemy and object placement, gimmick placement, difficulty of stages, how fun it is, etc. But keep in mind though that the quality of the stages or how fun you find these stages to be really depends on several factors like player preference, the quality of the level, and a few other things, so keep that in mind. After all, I can't really grade each level the same way as other ones. After all, if a stage is more of a regular Roadmaster stage or traditional style Mega Man stage, I'm going to treat it very differently compared to, let's say, oh, hold on about that. I'm going to treat it a lot differently compared to, let's say, a Fortress stage, or a challenge-based stage, or a secret stage, or a Kaizo stage, or challenge level, or a gimmick-based stage, etc. They all have their different expectations of difficulty, checkpoint placement, enemy gimmick usage, etc. So I will try taking that into account. As you can see here, this stage is focused heavily more so on force beams, as well as fire-type enemies. Unfortunately, we only have 3 fire-type enemies in this game, those being the Fire Tellies, Hotheads, and there's another one if I can recall correctly. We'll probably see it soon enough. There are only 3 fire-type enemies in this game, so it's kind of unfortunate. I would like more variety, like adding the Fire Boys or something. That way we can actually have more fire-type enemies to play around with the stages. The same for Ice-type enemies, as I'll elucidate later on, because we only have those seals from Blizzard Man stage. It would be nice if we had like the Curlingers from Blizzard Man stage so we can add more elemental variety to the enemies. Or more elemental enemies. I also do like how we have the force beams, but not all of them are instant death. I learned later on, or earlier, that the red force beams are instant death just like the classic ones. The green force beams deal a small amount of damage over time constantly, and the yellow ones deal a moderate amount of damage over time constantly. So good. I really appreciate the developer, or the Mega Maker engine, actually took the idea from other fan games, I think perhaps Super Fighting Robot, where the force beams aren't necessarily instant death, as that's one of the most annoying and painful things about the original force beams, of getting caught off guard. And to be fair, this stage is also kind of fair in terms of the force beam placement, because you do get quite a bit of time before they activate. Then again, the original Mega engine did have force beams that weren't instant death in the first place, so that's nice. First comments about the stage is that checkpoint placement is good. I really appreciate that there are large life energies and weapon energies at each checkpoint, and most of the enemy counters are fair. Unfortunately, some of the drops are a little bit unfair because you can get sniped by those trained Mets or Sniper Joes. I also find it unfortunate that we have the Hotheads but we don't have the Tackle Fires themselves, which would be pretty nice in terms for lava stages. Let's take the upper route this time. and see what it has to offer. Then I'll restart a checkpoint and show the other side. After all, I did take quite a bit of damage, and the checkpoint isn't too far back. This is where the pathways loop up. I'm going to kill myself so I can take the lower route. Overall, I rate this stage a 5 out of 6 out of 10 based on my previous experience. Also like how in the engine, the weapon capsules and life capsules actually respawn over after you die. That really prevents situations where you can end up getting stuck in those special weapon required rooms where there are large pickups, like what happened in Mega Man 3 and a few other classic games, and fan games and ROM hacks actually. I do wish there was the option to actually have the energy balancer enabled. That would be really appreciated. Also, I don't die here because there's a roof at the bottom, or there's ground at the bottom, you just can't see it. So the bottom route over here has less amount of enemies, but you have to go through this Yoku block segment. But this introduces you to the Yoku block segment coming up ahead of the stage, so that's nice. So I'll just use the charge key in order to get across. Although this Yoku block segment coming up is a little bit more jerkish because you can't necessarily predict where the Yoku block will be next because how it dissipates, or the pattern goes 1-2. So you gotta be a bit cautious. Thankfully they gave the charge kick, but it can be a little bit hairy, especially because of all those spikes. At least the checkpoint's only about a few screens away, so it isn't too annoying. But really, DeltaRay's next stage is a lot better. And I will be getting to it soon enough. Thank you for putting a checkpoint over there or extra life, although it's not really necessary. Here's the final part of the stage, where you have to drop through all these prop tops, and then we have this force beam segment here. Remember, running into the force beam generators is instant death, by the way. Or you will take damage regularly. And now time for the fight against Napalm Man. His weakness in this case is the Firestorm. Makes it really easy, especially when you get really close to him. And he takes the same amount of damage from the Firestorm's shield or rotating orb, as well as the Fire Blast or Fire Wave. So that was Flame Factory. Pretty fun, about an average stage, but I really like the next stage that DeltaRay did that he also sent to me, which is Top of the Volcano, which ended up being my favorite stage out of the bunch. 15 plays and a score of 1. Although it really should get a higher score compared to all of the other stages in this part, or most of the other stages in this part. It was unfortunately forgotten, but I think it's a really well designed stage, much better designed compared to the previous one. Although my first complaint would be that I don't like how we're immediately dropped into a situation where we can get instantly killed by, or instantly hurt by all those flame tellies. I really like if we started out in a little bit safer situation instead of instantly getting dropped into the fray. Although that's my personal opinion. Also, the shield attacker despawned here for some reason. So, for Top of the Volcano, you initially start at the base of this volcano, and you enter the summit, or you enter the volcano from here. And eventually we'll loop back over onto the right side. Like I said in some previous parts, I really like it when stages loop into each other so we can actually revisit earlier parts. I really enjoyed it Metroidvanias where, by getting new abilities, weapons, etc., you open up shortcuts to earlier areas and you can really see the progression. Like I said, I really enjoyed when we can revisit earlier areas, or at least see the progression from where we started earlier, and then revisit it from another perspective and progress forward. It really gives a sense of scope of how far we went. It also works the other way around, because we have a glimpse to a future part of the stage from an earlier part, and the longer the distance between the stages, the greater the effect. At least that's my opinion. So let's get across here. I'm just going to damage boost. Unfortunately, we don't have the charge kick like before. That would have made this situation a lot easier. At least we had the Pharaoh shot, but it takes a while to charge up though. I'm definitely going to have to use the plant barrier. But thankfully we have some checkpoints coming up, so it isn't too bad. And we have the Mega Man 4 charge shot, so it isn't as powerful, unfortunately. So you gotta be a little bit careful there. I would have also liked that the Shadow Man platforms were introduced in a safer environment, instead of in a bottomless pit over here. Although that may not be a bottomless pit, actually. It may in fact actually be leading to a bottom route over there, but I'm not sure. In that case, if it leads to a bottom route, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with the placement. Once again, I hit the wrong button, sorry. I keep trying to hit the start button, but I end up hitting something else. Thank you for putting the Search Snake over here so I can easily target this Sniper Joe. Although it's a Mega Man 2 Sniper Joe, so it has at least 11 to 12 HP. Once again, I reiterate my earlier statement. I hope in the future this engine adds Sniper Joes with less health, like the ones from the future Mega Man games, so they're less of a nuisance to take care of, and so they don't kill the flow of so many stages. One of my main complaints of many Sniper Joe variants, or Sniper Joes in general, is that they really kill the flow of the stage, or most stages, where they force you to wait for the Sniper Joe shield to get up, and then you can actually attack it. And then you can move forward, unless you want a damage boost or use another special weapon like a charge kick, etc. Especially without certain special weapons, Sniper Joes can really kill the flow of the stage. The same holds true to a lesser extent with stuff like the Hammer Joes, but because they have less amount of health, it's not really as much. The complaint doesn't hold as much. That was a bit of a close jump there. And now we're in the official fire segment of this stage, with all the fire tellies and hotheads. Now that I think about it, we only have officially 2 enemy fire-type enemies in this engine. Well, technically 3 types, but, well, I don't care. That was my fault because I bumped against the telly generator. Unfortunately, we're sent all the way back here, which is rather unfortunate. There should have been a checkpoint in the middle over there. Especially because of how the stage length worked. That's my only real complaint about this, especially in comparison to the previous stage, if you were to ask me. Where is Plant Barrier? There it is. There we go. At least we have the Magnet Beam to jump over these Sniper Joes if necessary. I'm just gonna damage boost through this Sniper Joe because they're taking too much time. And after all, damage boosting is one of the characteristics or techniques you learn from Mega Man really early on if you really want to skip some of these situations. Or skip some of the slower scenarios with tougher enemies or Sniper Joes, or shielded enemies. Now, I don't really have the same complaints about shielded enemies or guarded enemies with the shield attackers or Hammer Joes because they're so low health in comparison. Yeah, I'm just gonna speed past this because I already went through this segment. At least there's quite a bit of speedrun potential if you're quick enough. And thankfully the random number drops or random number generates being really much in my favor in terms of drop rate. So I do appreciate that. Unfortunately, the Search Snake isn't really that powerful, so it can't really make mincemeat out of those Sniper Joes, sadly. Thankfully, we don't have the sniper armors, although it's a double-edged sword in that term. I say thankfully because if we had the sniper armors, oh boy, it would be even more of a nuisance to fight Sniper Joes, that's for sure. Really would have liked the checkpoint around the beginning of that segment, though. At least there's a checkpoint over here, but like I said, there should have been one a bit earlier. Then again, this is following traditional Mega Man standards, so I can't really complain too much. The classic games did it, after all. I'm gonna ignore Telly and just move on forward. Otherwise, the stage difficulty progression is pretty fine, starting from easier to difficult. We introduce most of these enemies in safer configurations, except probably the shield attackers, and we move on, and we get on for tougher and tougher configurations, with more combinations of enemies, etc. So good difficulty progression. I just want, but the progression in terms of checkpoints does leave something to be desired. It could be done a little bit better. Also, if you run out of magnet beam energy over there, you're trapped. So there is a bit of forced weapon usage there if you can't make the jump. I would have liked it if we can drop down below so we can at least get back up in case we get stuck. Here's where the paths loop up or the stage loops up. Really appreciate it when games do that, especially Metroidvanias. And we're nearing the end of the stage. I shouldn't get hit by that though. I'm just gonna damage boost there though. That segment really forces you to go a bit slower, but I decided to rush it because I'm getting near the end of the stage. Let me just kill off the Sniper Joe and then I'll proceed onwards. I really don't want to die at this point. This is one of those situations where I really wish I had the Crash Bomber or the Charge Kick. Or even a top spin. Either one would do. Alright, time for, well, Stone Man. His weakness is the Pharaoh Shot. Of course it would be. And that was the end of Top the Volcano. As I said before, this will be my favorite stage out of this part. Mainly due to its well-made level design, nice introduction of level enemies gimmicks, and a nice combination of a level team. As we started at the base of the volcano, went inside the volcano into the volcanic base, and then made our way back upwards outside into the sky and made it to the upward base where we fought Stone Man. Although I wish there was more lava textures like from, let's say, Shadow Man's stage. That would have made it a lot better if we actually had lava, better animated lava if you ask me. Still, good job with your 2 levels, DeltaRay. Next up are the Twitter found levels. First on the list is The Gearing Knight by IkariAllen. 13 plays and a score of 3, or rather 2, but I upvoted it. Like I said, I apologize, this is my second impression. At least this will make it hopefully go a bit faster. So we have this first part where we have to fight this train met. Okay, nice introduction. Then we have this jump over here. So, we have an extra life over there for some reason. Here's the first challenging part of the stage. We somehow have to make this jump, make this rather precise jump with all these ball cannons. And of course, it kind of glitched over there and somehow grabbed the ladder. That's a really precise jump, and I failed it during my first run through of the stage. I failed it a bunch of times, so I hope the developer moves it around a little bit closer to the beginning of the stage, so it isn't as hazardous to make the jump. As you see there, if you don't make the jump precise, if you don't stand on the edge of that platform and you get hit by the ball, you'll fall in the pit over there. So I really hope that's fixed in the future. After all, starting the stage with a precise jump like that, especially with a non-challenge based stage like this one, it's kind of a nuisance, kind of a jerk move. And we have the Thunder Beam as well, so that should make parts of the stage a bit easier. And we have the Mega Man 5 or 6 Mega Man 5 charge shot, so that should also make the stage a bit easier. Also, I really wish that the falling platforms were introduced in a safer environment, but that's just me. Bit of a close jump over there. I'm not sure if I'll be able to jump back up. I'll just test it. Yeah, I can. I'm going to be spamming the Thunder Beam over here, or the Elect Beam, because it's how useful it is. Other than that first jump at the beginning, I think the stage is relatively fine, just a bit average though. Thankfully the developer gave the Thunder Beam, as we'll see soon enough why. Well, not this segment, but you'll see soon enough. Never mind. It was that segment with all those tactile fires or mats that became a problem. Basically, where we have all those beaks or cannons, that's where it became a bit of an issue. Okay, now we have the fight against Nightman. Unfortunately, when he's jumping, it could be a little bit difficult to hit him. Especially if you're not in the right position. And you don't jump at the right side. I almost died over there, similar to the last fight, but I was able to defeat him. Elect Beam isn't the best weakness for Nightman, but it works. That actually brings up another interesting discussion about how most Robomaster weaknesses are better suited for Roadmasters, both based off of elemental affinities as well as their patterns. And changing it up really changes how you face the bosses. And having different weaknesses, especially certain ones, makes certain boss fights harder or easier to deal with. So that was the Gearing Knight, kind of an average stage. I really wish it focused more on a gimmick, like making the gear segment a bit longer. I really wish it had more crushers or moving platforms though, or the conveyor belts. Next up is Tropical Freeze by OmegaManZX, 14 plays and a score of 6. This was intended to be like a tropical jungle stage with a water segment and a freeze segment, but it kind of faltered around the end. So we have Bubbleman's team, the Mega Man 6 or the Mega Man 5 charge shot. You can distinguish between the Mega Man 5 and 6 charge shot based off the fact that in Mega Man 5 you don't lose the charge shot upon getting a hit or getting hit, whereas in Mega Man 6 you do for balance reasons. Bubbleman's team, and we start at Napalm Man's jungle. Bit of spikes over there, and we have those bouncy Mets. Nothing too difficult. Bunch of abilities, thankfully have the shine to make some of these challenges a bit easier. Especially as we'll see later on. I will have to re-show Shiny or NATO everyone that I showed in the viewer level submission or a few parts ago, because I realized that I gone through the second half of the stage the non-intended route. I was supposed to use the NATO, but I was supposed to use the shine, but instead I used the NATO for the most part. After all, the Shine and NATO have quite a bit of overlap in terms of usages, although the Shine is better. The Shine's main characteristic or defining characteristic is that it can deflect shot. And of course, it can pierce through guards, I think. But of course, you can also just you can interrupt your falling momentum using this and increase your jump height or horizontal movement capabilities. That shouldn't be traveling over there. So it makes it a lot more useful, and it doesn't use weapon energy while using it, so it's better for precise areas of the game where you need to increase your horizontal momentum. Whereas the NATO is much better if you want to cross larger gaps as well as travel upwards. They do have they have overlapping characteristics, but they're still pretty fun. They're still pretty fun to use, and they are distinguishable. But you need to get into precise circumstances like precision jumping or having to reflect shots before you can then see its uses. Which is why in Shiny or NATO everyone I used the NATO for the most part, because the situations used, even for where it precipitated or the designer intended you to use the shine, I could have just used the NATO instead. Here's what I was referring to earlier in the first level of this game, or first level of this part. I really wish there was more ice-type enemies like the Curlinger, because right now we only have like the Steels. So we had the jungle segment, we had the water segment, and we had the ice segment. I really wish though that the water and ice segments were a bit longer, so we actually had more stage to go through. As it feels like the stage, especially in the second and third segments, ends too abruptly. That E-Tank isn't really necessary, so I'll ignore it. Also, I hope in a future update the developer will add something like the Noble Nickels in Megamel 2, which, if you're unfamiliar with them, they're just like the red coins not the red coins, the star coins in New Super Mario Bros., or the red rings from Sonic Colors, or Sonic Generations, etc. Oh whoa. Oh, phew. And that's another example of why I really wanted an option to turn off the pause when picking up those life capsules, or any capsule in general, because your momentum can be thrown off by the temporary pause. This is more of a problem with, for stages with precise jumping. And that's the end of the stage. Good checkpoint placement, but I really wish that the water and ice segment were a bit better done. And Toadman's weakness is of course the shine, which is a lot easier to use because how Toadman keeps jumping. You can use it to keep him stuck in a pattern and easily kill him. So that was Tropical Freeze. I would say it's my second most favorite stage out of the bunch so far. But, well, the problem is I would like the water and ice segments to go further and actually utilize their gimmicks to a better degree. Still, good job, OmegaManZX. Next up is TypeQQ SHMUP Level by TypeQQ. 3 plays and a score of, well, actually -1 for some reason. I'm gonna increase it to 1. Out of the bunch, I would say it's the most unique gimmick-based level. Well, this is tied with another level coming up soon. Based off the name, this is a RUP SHMUP level, or Rush Jet SHMUP level, where you have to ride rush through these level segments and defeat the enemies. However, this is a lot easier compared to many other SHMUP segments, or many other Rush Jet SHMUP segments in other Mega Man fan games, or classic games. Mainly due to the fact that, well, I'll demonstrate to here. If you take damage while on Rush Jet, you will not get knocked off. In fact, you do not take any knockback at all while riding on Rush Jet. You'll only take damage, so you never have a risk of getting knocked off. Even if you impact right into enemies themselves, you'll never take damage. I mean, you'll never get knocked off. Because in many other Mega Man games and fan games and ROM hacks, if you get hit while on Rush Jet, I'll just jump off here. Good thing we have infinite usage of Rush Jet. If you get hit while you're on Rush Jet will despawn, meaning that you'll fall into the abyss or fall into whatever ground is over there. Whereas over here, if you get hit, you'll never get knocked off. The only time Rush will despawn is if he hits a wall, or if Mega Man gets stuck on a wall. Like if I get too close to the wall up there, or one of the walls down there, Rush will continue on without me, and I'll fall to my death. But Rush will still continue on without despawning. I correct my earlier statement of where I said that Rush is not really that powerful. I would say this is one of the most powerful Rush Jet incarnations in a Mega Man game or fan game. In Mega Man 3, Rush had a lot of weapon energy. Here, Rush Jet can be slowed down, as you can see over here, to half its speed, meaning they have a lot more precision. Plus, Mega Man can never get knocked off of it. Unless you jump off, of course. That's the only time Mega Man can have knockback. But as long as Rush or Mega Man is standing on Rush, he'll never get knocked off of it. Which makes it a lot more powerful. And much more useful, because now you can just ram through a lot of enemies without a worry in the world. The only worry is of course dying due to running out of life energy. So that alone, that being no knockback and Mega Man can still power forward, and the fact that Rush will never despawn unless he hits a wall, makes this one of the most powerful incarnations of Rush I've ever seen in a Mega Man game or fan game. I would say it's about as powerful as Mega Man 3 or on par. And I really hope some future Mega Man fan games or ROM hacks take note of this and add an upgrade for Rush Jet that makes it so that you'll always stick on Rush Jet, even if you take damage. The only way he'll despawn is if he hits a wall. But I suppose it's done so for balancing reasons, so that Rush Jet isn't so OP as you can see here. Because through most Mega Man traditional stages, if Rush Jet acted the same way as it did here, in this engine, well, he would be really broken and you could easily get through a lot of stages very quickly. I don't know why we need all these extra lives, but I don't mind it too much. Oh yeah, we also have the quick boomerang, I forgot about that one. That's Napalm Man's weakness. I suppose that's why other Mega Man games and fan games make it so that Rush Jet either gets despawned when you take a hit, or you get knocked off of Rush Jet if you take a hit. I suppose that's why otherwise you can just easily breeze through a lot of Mega Man stages. But here it works out. I feel like this is like an introductory or stage 1 shmup level that was made by TypeQQ. I would like to see it taken further with a lot denser enemy configurations, a lot tougher enemy configurations, and stages where you have to go through tight corridors or tight caves, where you really have to utilize the slowdown feature of Rush so you don't fall into your death. Or one with a lot more spike traps. There are a lot more ways that Rush Jet can be taken, and I really appreciated how TypeQQ illustrated how a shmup level using this engine's Rush Jet can be taken. So bravo TypeQQ. Next up is Jungle Mission, Infiltrate the Secret Base by Savvy A. 22 plays and a score of 9, plus 1, which makes it 10. This is going to be my favorite gimmick level of this part, as you'll see soon enough. It sure was a tough one, but it was a fun one. Well, a gimmick/challenge-based level, as I'll illustrate soon enough. Also, really like the creative usage of tile sets over here, because we start out the mountains with this helicopter of sorts, with the ladder. Good job over there, Savvy A, with making this makeshift helicopter. So here we're infiltrating the base. Here's the Shadow Man platformer. Here's the Shadow Man platform over all these instant death spikes. I wish it was introduced over here in safety first, but oh well. And we only have access to the charge kick. That's why I said it was a gimmick-based level. To summarize this level right now, this is like an advanced version of charge kick training, but not as a difficult version as that slide though, as we're going to be using all the capabilities of charge kick in order to get across or survive the stage. So here we're infiltrating the stage. We have to worry about those fire bars over there. I'm going to try accessing the right one over there, if I can get there. So first I'm going to go into these Galaxy Man platform teleporters, and try getting into that small crevice there, if I time it correctly. Because there is a goodie over there I want. It'll take a little while though, because as you remember from that slide though, it's a bit pixel precise. And timing is not my best thing. Well, it's more precision, I mean. Precision is not really my thing. There we go. This is an optional area we can access in order to get an extra life, or rather a full life refill, as well as an M-Tank. Although we don't need we only need the E-Tank capabilities. For this first challenge, I really like how the developer didn't resort to instant death here, instead using Galaxy Man teleporters in order to get across. Here you're supposed to use the air sliding capability of the charge in order to get across, and fall on all these count bombs. If you fail, you'll fall on those Galaxy Man teleporters, which will take you back up there. Here's the spike segment, thank you for putting a checkpoint there. The developer really nailed down the placement of checkpoints, especially at places where they think that the players will die quite a bit. Like I've repeatedly said in the previous few parts, the checkpoint frequency should be dependent on the stage's difficulty. The more difficult the stage should be, the more difficult the stage is, the more checkpoints there should be. And there should be more checkpoints placed at areas where the developer expects there to be deaths. Like here, the developer expects the players to die quite a bit just before there, so it's a good idea to just place a checkpoint over here so that players don't get frustrated and whatnot. So right now we're just practicing our air sliding skills, and going down here with all these count bombs, and now we're dropping down into the water. Here's introducing the falling platform gimmick, also putting an E-Tank here, really appreciated. If there's one thing the two things that the developer really nails down here are the challenge progressions of all the charge kick, really illustrating, slowly adding new characteristics or slowly adding the new features the players may know about the charge kick and building upon them. We first started with air sliding, now we start more with precision air sliding and timing. And I do like the checkpoint placement, that's the second thing they really get done well. Because they always put a checkpoint in segments just before segments that are really tough, as well as just after segments that players may get frustrated on and may need to repeat over and over, so that players don't need to repeat them again and again. See, now, we first talked about air sliding over there. Now, as we'll get over here, we're introducing the other part. Another nice feature about the charge kick is that you can actually break out of the charge kick slide by jumping and do another air slide in midair. That way you can extend your jump height and slide on these spikes. So like over here, I can actually slide on these spikes and jump on the ladder. I don't know if that was possible in Mega Man 5, but that's a really nice upgrade, and that's used a lot in this stage. You gotta be careful though, because if you decide to change direction while doing a charge kick, you'll instantly break out of it, and if you're on the spikes, it basically amounts to instant death. Before we had all the spikes, now we have to do it in midair, and it's a lot more precise here, but I do like how the challenge progression is working, and how we go from an easier version to a harder version. That was my mistake. I need to keep sliding over there, jump in the middle of that Shadow Man platform, wait for it to respawn, or close down again, and then do the slide over there. Like I said, most of these challenges I feel are fair. It's usually I feel it's my fault for not being proficient enough skilled in order to do these, but it doesn't feel as punishing as that slide though with so many precise slides. Here it feels relatively fair, and more targeted. My 8 button didn't work for some reason. It feels more targeted for Mega Man players who are more the core audience, who played a bunch of Mega Man games, fan games, stages before. But not those who are more Kaizo or really live and breathe Mega Man. Okay, I need to just slide directly there. I know I completed this stage before, but it took a bunch of deaths. Really would like a death counter so I could illustrate that. Perhaps in a future update there will be a death counter added to this game so you can see how many times you died in a stage. Maybe even a pickup counter, global statistics on deaths, wins, level completions, etc. Because I know the game does store the number of levels you do complete. So I would like, for example, a number of levels that we completed as well as the level completed queue to show all the levels that we completed. As well as another important feature being the win-loss ratio or the success rate of the level to at least gauge how tough a stage is. I know Mario Maker has had that and I really would like if this game had it. Okay, here's a really tight segment. And I failed it immediately. I need to keep sliding on top of these count bombs. Well, I need to slide on these spikes, jump on these count bombs, repeat it and snake my way upwards. The hard part is though, of course, if I hit the bottom of the count bombs, I'll instantly die from falling on the spikes, and I can't change my direction in mid-slide, so I gotta be a bit cautious while doing this. Here I need to do the slide at the right time so I can actually get through these spike segments and open up these top platforms. Get up here, jump over here, and make my way across. That segment in my original run took about 24 attempts, but here I got it in my first few attempts. Like I said, even though the stage feels rather challenging, I am not getting too frustrated. The challenges feel rather fair and they don't feel too precise for my skill level. Like I said, they're designed for players who have played a bunch of Mega Man games, fan games, stages before, so they aren't too bad. Here we are taking precise jumping a bit further. Thankfully, if you bump into spikes on the side while doing charge kick, it'll just break the charge kick and fall to the ground instead. So it's not too bad. We just need to be quiet on our toes so we can actually make these jumps. We just need to time our charge kick just immediately as we go down the slide. Here we need to slide over here, and then when we reach the third spike, immediately break out of it by jumping and doing air slide. Let's see if I can do this. Same over here. A little bit precise over here. I somehow got it in my second attempt. I don't know how. Keep holding right over here. Really wish there was a checkpoint nearby so you didn't have to repeat the segment, because if you weren't careful, you would just fall into the pit and have to repeat that other segment. I wish there was a checkpoint just in between that, because that is a rather difficult segment to do. And that's the end of the stage. There's nothing to the left over here. Over here is the exit helicopter. Thanks for putting one over here. I don't know why there's a beak over there, but I don't mind it too much. Let's see if there's any secrets over here. Nope, no secrets, so it's time to get out of here. As I said at the beginning of this level, I feel like Infiltrate the Jungle Base is it's my favorite challenge level out of the bunch, or out of the stages I covered in this part. And dare I say it, it's one of my favorite gimmick levels overall that I've played. Well, challenge levels more so. My favorite gimmick level so far is What's the Hold Up, the gravity hold stage I played a few parts ago. This is my favorite challenge-based stage so far because it really tests how much you know about the charge kick and this engine's improved charge kick. And it acts like a tutorial as well, more like an advanced tutorial. Whereas the charge kick tutorial acted like a basic tutorial, this feels like an extension of sorts of that one. That charge kick tutorial taught you about the basic charge kick abilities, the ability to air slide, but this taught you more about precision air sliding, the fact you can actually break out of charge kick slides in mid-ground, and then do an air slide, the fact that charge kick actually works on spikes without killing you until it runs out, etc. I really appreciate what the developer did and really extended the mileage of the charge kick, and really illustrates how far it can be taken without making it so difficult like that slide though. So I really appreciate it, and I find it to be my favorite challenge level of the bunch. Not too difficult, but not too easy. So good work, Xavier. In fact, I'll download this for future playthroughs so I can learn from it. Well, I've covered about 6 levels, so this will be the last level I cover in this part, especially because the previous level took my breath away. Alright, last level is Medium Robo Lab by DivineComics, 5 plays and a score of 0, plus 1, which is mine. Hopefully it isn't really a difficult stage. Well, I know it's not a really difficult stage, what am I saying? These are all my second impressions after all. So we started at Brightman's laboratory with all these spikes. Unfortunately, we don't have the Brightman gimmick. Really would like that to be used. I've said that for a lot of gimmicks, actually. I kind of missed a lot of the gimmicks that were I especially say this because many of the gimmicks that were in the classic Mega Man traditional games were actually part of the base Megamel 2 engine, but they aren't present here mainly because of time restraints. Then again, this engine is less buggy than it was. The initial release of this engine was much less buggy compared to the initial release of the Megamel 2 engine for designing the Megamel 2 counter sentries, that's for sure. And I suppose that's what they were going for, so that players wouldn't be so complaining about it. Because unlike the Megamel 2 engine, where even if some of the gimmicks or enemies are buggy, over there you can actually just reprogram it to be a bit better. Or you create your own enemies to work over the oversize of the engine, or missing things, etc. But here players don't have the capability, so it's especially important to actually have the base engine assets be up to par, or at least mostly work as they're supposed to. And that over here was my part because I forgot to jump properly. That's the odd engine bug there. I won't take the E-Tank, I have no use for it. Now we have all these count bomb segments and all of these like and Thunder Beam. Thankfully these count bombs are placed just high enough so we'll never get hit by them. Forced weapon usage of the Metal Blade here, thank you for putting the small weapon capsule there. We have just Rush Coil and the Metal Blades. I don't know why there was a ladder placed over there. There doesn't seem to be a use for it, other than taking care of the beaks. No use for getting that large life capsule anyway. In fact, it's actually tougher to get that large life capsule in comparison to the E-Tank, so I would say to swap the large life capsule with the E-Tank, because otherwise it doesn't feel worth it to take this large life energy. It's too risky with those instant death spikes. Let me take the upper route and see what it has to offer. Okay, so it's just a checkpoint. Another thing I would like a glaring omission from this engine is the missing omission of bosses for some reason. Mini bosses, I mean. That's why I've noticed a lot of designers have instead opted to use tougher enemies in lieu of mini bosses. Hopefully that'll be fixed in a future update as well. No, I'm not gonna risk it. It's too dangerous. After all, we have a checkpoint over there, so if we die, well, I'll just respawn over there. Then again, I could risk it and go for that checkpoint anyway. I mean, that life. It just doesn't feel worth it if you ask me. And we have this row or line of Sniper Joes. Not too bad though. Unfortunately, we don't have the best set of special weapons to deal with it. The best ones would probably be the Charge Kick and the Crash Bomb. And we're at the end of Medium Robo Lab. There probably should have been a screen transition here. And there is one over here. Thank you for putting a checkpoint anyway. Of course, Fairman's weakness is the only special weapon, the Metal Blade. I'm not sure why there are junk platforms over here. Or dust platforms, I mean. There's no risk of the player instantly dying, actually. Because unless the player decides to jump up on these junk platforms for some reason, or junk blocks, the player has no risk of dying. Can bosses actually die from securing themselves on spikes? Maybe that's why all those dust platforms were placed over there. If the bosses are able to be damaged or killed by instant death spikes, that'll be quite interesting, because I know Burner Man from Mega Man in Base actually took an extra amount of damage from falling in spikes through the usage of the ice wall. So that was a nice but short stage, DivineComics. Pretty fun, but it's rather average. As I was saying, my favorite stages out of this bunch were Top the Volcano by DeltaRay, and a tie between TypeQQ SHMUP Level and the challenge level Infiltrate the Jungle Base by Savvy A. I would say the jungle level would be my second favorite stage. Top the Volcano for being a nice traditionally styled Mega Man level, where we start at the outside of the volcano, go inside, and exit the end with nice checkpoint placement outside of one area, as well as nice introduction of enemies and gimmicks. And Savvy A's Jungle Base for being such a good designed challenge level, where it really illustrates how much the charge can be done, while not being too unfair or too difficult for really hardcore Mega Man players. It's designed for more medium-core Mega Man players. And it acts like an advanced charge kick level. I really hope that more levels actually illustrate or take into account the charge kick's capabilities, and design it around it, as it was one of my most fun abilities to use in Mega Man 5. Shame it wasn't really used that well there, or there weren't that many scenarios where you could use it to its full potential. Well then, I covered 7 levels. In the next part, I'll be covering levels from the official subreddit's level sharing thread. Well then, thanks for watching and have a nice day. Toodles!